Yo, what's up guys? Ontario Bassin back here, and today we're going to be talking about plastic worms. How to fish them, how to rig them, and just really everything you need to know. So let's get right in.
Mr. Bombastic, we want some bombastic, romantic, fantastic lover. Shaggy, Mr. Lover.
Okay, before we start here, let's break our worms down into 4 basic categories. So, I like to call this just a regular old plastic worm. A little bit of thickness to it, a little average size. Just lay that there. Then, we have our ribbon tail worm. See, it's just like a regular worm, comes down, then goes into a ribbon tail like that. So that's our ribbon tail worm. Next, we have what I like to call our finesse worm. Just like that. A little bit skinnier body, more finesse, just like that. And our last category that we're going to be talking about, which I don't fish too much, we're just going to leave it alone here, so is our slugs. Real thick body to it, just like that. Okay, as I said, here we got a regular worm, and our first way to hook it, this is, as I said, called a Texas rig. So you're going to want to take this is actually a pretty small hook for it. I like to go with a 3 to 4/0, maybe even 5/0 depending on the worm. Size, this is a round bend hook, worm hook. So you like to take that hook. Here you got the top of your worm. You'll want to just put it in and just pull it out. Just barely go through like that. And push your hook through there and pull it out the top so you have it looking just like that. Okay, now you're going to want to measure how far that hook goes back when you have something like that. Mine goes right there. So you're going to push my hook through just like that. And now you should come out with something looking kind of like that. Okay, so what I like to do, I like to push that up and just pull that plastic and just barely put it over the tip of that hook so it's just barely not exposed. I don't want to put under too much because then I'll start losing fish. So then so you could fish your regular worm, Texas rig like I have it here, and just casting that around, catching the odd bass, you know. What I like to do most time is I like to put an egg sinker on there, a pointed egg sinker most times I like to use, and start pitching and flipping with this. Now I can really go through brush with this. If I usually like to put a little bobber stopper right above it, hold that weight in place there. So now I can be punching weeds with this, and probably about an inch of weeds with that weight on there. That's a 1/2 ounce right now. I like to usually fish a 3/8 ounce, maybe a 1/4 ounce if I'm going a little bit light. But most times for punching, flipping, pitching, I'll use a 3/8 ounce weight. Also, when you're Texas rigging, or later as we get on, Carolina rigging, you can use a round bend hook like this. It's round bend. Or you can use a straight hook like that. That's got a straight shaft to it. Hold them side by side, you can get a feel for it. It's like that. This has straight. This goes down a bend. It's like that. So it really depends what you're using it for to pick if you're going to use a round bend or a straight. You could also fish it like this. So this is a weed guarded hook. I don't fish this too much, but as you see, it has a little metal spring like that. You bend back over the tip of that hook, and that protects it from any brush that's coming along against that. But as soon, if I can get it here, as the bass comes up and goes on that, it's going to push down on that and still get that hook in the mouth. So that's just another way. Okay, next up we got the wacky rig, guys. So what you're going to want to do is take your regular worm and kind of eyeball it, get about 1/2. With these worms I use, there's a little bit of a soft part right there. I like to go on the back side of that, towards the tail end. So I'll hook it in through the side and pull it out. Not hook, I'd say about that much too. Just like that. And then cast this. I like fishing this weedless. I mean, not weedless, weightless. But you could also put on a little egg sinker with it. I wouldn't go as heavy as 3/8 ounce. This is one of those times that I'd probably use a 1/4 ounce weight. And you could just fish it like that. But what happens to me most times, let's fish like this, my worm will get ripped off. So I will use a little elastic band like that and just wrap that hook on better so it has less probable chance of coming off. Okay, so that's all for a regular worm, and now we got up next our ribbon worm. So all those techniques I just showed you with our regular worm, you can also use with this ribbon tail worm. But next up here, we got what I like to call a death bend hook. See, it's got that bend in it. And this I like to use if you're ever trolling a worm. I'd use this technique. So you could fish this weightless, which I would never do, because if you fish this weightless, it's just going to sit on top when you're trolling. So I put a little bit of weight on, not too much weight. And if I can get it here. Hold on. Okay, you see I got there? So that's basically it. You're just going to put it through like that. But you see that little bend in the worm now? That when you're trolling in the water, that worm's going to spin now. And that tail's going to be spinning. So that just... Okay, now we have our slug. And as I said, I don't use slugs that much. But really the only time I would use this big of slug, well, this isn't that big of slug, but this is a pretty big worm. The only time I'd use a bait this big, that's worm-like, is if I'm having to be punching really thick weeds. And there's something in there that kind of resembles this. But yeah, that's really the only time. Or if you're fishing a pond that has big leeches in it, I like to go with a black slug, and I'll whip that around. And yeah, and lastly, we have our finesse worm here. And what I like to do with the finesse worm, I'd say roughly 90% of the time, is drop shot it. Now drop shotting is one of my all-time favorite strategies to catch bass. And I do not really feel like tying a drop shot rig up right now, so I'll put a picture right here. And you can just pause the video, take a look at it if you have to. So yeah, the reason I use these worms over a regular worm, because watch when I barely shake that. See that action? Then watch when I barely shake that. This is a lot stiffer of worm. And this has a lot more action in it. So when that drop shot weight, that bell weight on the bottom, when you're bouncing off the bottom, that worm's going to be just dancing there. And bass just really can't resist this. It has the best reaction. And oh my goodness, they just pound on it. So that's all today, folks. Please let me know if you liked it. Like, comment, subscribe, favorite. And these really take quite a bit of effort, so that'd be really appreciated. And if this video gets 20 likes by midnight tonight, I will put another how-to up tomorrow afternoon. Okay? So it's been Ontario Bassin and PEACE.